Hello and welcome. Today's project is all about the question, why is a mentor necessary or a role model necessary to overcome the challenges you're currently facing, health anxiety, the chaos that you're in. Now, this is a really important question, and this role model comes into step 2 of the recovery process. Step 1 is taking responsibility that you're flawed, that you need help, essentially. Then step 2 is getting yourself knowledgeable, and this is where your mentor comes into play, because an anxiety sufferer is so overwhelmed by all of this information. They don't know where to look. They're overwhelmed about their body, the chaos they're in, whether they're even going to get better or not. They don't even think it's possible to get better, but they admit that they're flawed. They admit that they have to do something about it. I can't rely on coping strategies anymore. I have to take this anxiety recovery into my own hands. So now a mentor comes in, and a mentor is crucial because now there's an aim, right? Oh, this mentor is an embodiment of the person that I want to be like, the person that I want to become. And so when you take on the responsibility of overcoming anxiety, it's this admitting to yourself that my way of being, my beliefs, my values, my perspective, I can't rely on myself to get better, right? And so in step 2, the role model comes in. I have to rely on somebody I can relate to. And it's that relatability. You want somebody who went through the same thing you went through, the same scenario, the same emotions, the same circumstances, and got out of it. And so it's that relatability, and you really want someone to relate to, because you're going to be emanating and learning from this role model for a long period of time. So you want to adopt this role model, this mentor, permanently to overcome the things that you're going through. And when I adopted my role models going through my recovery, they projected this hope within me, right? That, oh, it's possible to overcome it, because they related to my story. They're relating to the situations that I'm in, the panic, the emotions, the sensations, the bodily sensations, the doctor visits, the reassurance seeking, the depersonalization, the dizziness, the heart palpitations, all of these things, they relate to me. And so now I get to learn from them that information, but also the tools. How did they get out of it? You want step-by-step knowledge from this mentor, and you'll find pretty quickly who those people are, and you'll find pretty quickly who the people that don't relate to you are, right? That don't relate to your story. And one of my videos, the day in the life of a health anxiety sufferer, really speaks to a lot of people. That's the video that has the most one of the most views on my channel, because I speak about what I was going through with health anxiety, and people comment and message me, oh my God, I relate to you. I'm going through the same thing. I have the same sensations. Oh my God, I didn't even know it was anxiety in the first place. I was just on YouTube searching up these symptoms, and your video pops up. And so on my channel, that's what I do, is talk about what I went through, but also I take aspects from my clients. I take the information from the books that I read, and I put it all together and provide the best tools and techniques to overcome anxiety, the challenges that you're currently going through. And so you want a role model, you want a mentor who you can fall back on when a setback does occur, because setbacks are inevitable. Right? So when a setback does happen, you want to go back to their videos. You want to go back to their podcasts. You want to email them. You want to message them and talk about the setbacks with them. And you want someone who's not a judge, who doesn't judge you, but understands you, because they went through the same thing that you're currently going through, right? And let's unpack role model, what it really means, right? And it's obvious, but let's really unpack it. So role, they embody the role, the identity that you want to become, right? And then model, you want to model that embodiment. You want to model that identity. So when you are subjecting yourself, when you are modeling and watching the person's content all the time, you unconsciously absorb their actions, their words. And you can see that even with the people you hang around today, your family, your friends, maybe they're negative, and you absorb their negative beliefs, you absorb their negative actions. You just absorb that stuff. Even when you're a child, the programming that you download is because you're in a theta unconscious brainwave state, right? You're unconscious, you're like a sponge, you absorb that information, and then that negative programming runs its course later in life in a negative way. And so with this new role model, with this mentor, they're emanating positivity, right? And so there's resistance because the anxiety sufferer the ego wants to hold on to its identity, the identification to form and who they are, even if it's negative, right? But with that role model, it's that ego, that identification to form, that unconsciousness starts to crack and break, and new pathways start to emanate. And now this mentor is emanating so much positivity and tools and techniques, and everything starts to shatter, right? Your old identity starts to break apart, and it's painful, but it's necessary to grow, to break out of that state. And so when you are non-stop subjecting yourself to these kinds of videos and podcasts, what happens is you're breaking away from that identity. Even if you have a hard time paying attention and absorbing, well, you are absorbing it. Your unconscious is always active and aware because it makes up 95% of who we are. So your unconscious is absorbing that person's information, and the more you hang around and those people who've gotten to a better place, and you become a student and you're willing to become a student and be a fool, then the more you're going to change over time, pretty much. And I still have mentors. That's because when you go through the recovery process, you're going to fall in love with the recovery process. It's going to be painful at first, but once you see yourself change, once you see a shift in your perspective, you're going to fall in love and keep going down that path. You're going to develop a developing mindset rather than staying with that set mindset, stuck in ego, stuck in unconsciousness, right? You're going to develop a mindset where you're going to continuously learn, and that continuous learning goes on throughout the rest of your life. So I still have mentors, and I still look to them because there's a collective unconscious, right? There's a collective, also a shadow. There's a shadow within everybody, right? And we can always go back to our old destructive patterns, our primitive ways, stuck in ego, stuck in identification. And I know that to be the case within me. So each and every day I practice my morning routines, my new ways of thinking, my mindfulness. And that's because if I stop practicing those things, if I stop learning and growing and looking to my mentors, I can slip back into unconsciousness, into ego, into destructive patterns that are just going to lead me down a bad path. So I'm more on this spectrum rather than the spectrum I started at the beginning of my recovery, all the way at ground zero, suffering deeply, suffering in ego, suffering in unconsciousness, right? So a mentor will always be with you. They will be the person that you rely on, that you can talk to, that you can open up to and say anything to them. And that's what I do on my channel. I will tell you my deepest, darkest things that have happened to me, the desires, the destructive patterns that I've been through, because I'm an open book. I know what has kept me in destructive patterns and in chaos, and I want to help, and my passion and love is to help those around me, but also you, to overcome the challenges that you're currently going through. And so your perspective shifts in this second step, getting knowledgeable, adopting this mentor. Your perspective shifts from coping information to recovery information. It's like walking into a bookstore, right? When I walk into a bookstore, my attention goes to the books about self-help, recovery, spirituality. That draws me in, because my perspective now is about that information, psychology. But before, my perspective, going back to the bookstore analogy or metaphor, my information is on those spiritual books, recovery books, but not on the Game of Thrones books, right? Because that's where my values lie. My values lie in self-help, spirituality, things like that. But when someone's suffering from anxiety, they're only paying attention to the coping information, right? Weed, alcohol, negative forums, just talking about symptoms, Dr. Google. They're just paying attention to things to help them cope. Reassurance seeking, right? But once you adopt that mentor, and you start to begin the knowledge process, you start to become a student of anxiety and start from square one, what happens is your perspective starts to shift, and the different information is going to be filtered within your body. Information that pertains to recovery, information that pertains to techniques to calm down, calm the body, foods that help calm the body, essential oils to help calm the body, meditation, things like that. New information comes in, and then the coping information just starts to fade away and dissolve over time. And then this new information is going to propel you towards the person that you've always wanted to become. And then you're going to start to manifest the positives in your life. So who are your role models? Remember, it's somebody you can relate to. Somebody who speaks the same thing that you're going through, and who got better. What are the tools? Learn from them. How did you overcome? Ask them questions. How did you overcome it? What did you do in this situation? Did you have the same bodily sensations? Did you worry about your heart? Did you feel dizziness? All of those things. Remember, it's relatability. And then surround yourself all the time, continuously, with this person, right? It doesn't have to be in person, online, podcast, videos. That works as long as you're surrounding yourself with that useful information that puts you in formation towards the person that you always want to become. And that's where I'm going to leave you on this video. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your comments. Please subscribe to this channel. Also, rate and review the Anxiety Project podcast on iTunes. I greatly appreciate it. And remember, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video. Bye for now. Remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell so that whenever a new video of mine appears, you will be the first to know. Namaste.